Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Baseus Bowie 30 Max. These are a pair of active noise cancelling Bluetooth headphones priced at $80. They're an alternative to the Soundcore by Anker Space One, as well as the One More Sono Flows. So all three pairs of these headphones are under $100, offering pretty solid active noise cancellation. And just like those alternatives, the Bowie 30 Max also tout LDAC codec support, allowing these to have the high-res audio wireless certification, so it transmits up to 3 times more detail compared to regular Bluetooth codecs of SBC and AAC. What's also notable is Baseus has 50mm drivers, which are a little larger compared to the 40mm used on both the Soundcore as well as the One More, so a larger speaker inside should theoretically pack even more volume as well as bass, which we'll talk about more when we discuss the sound quality. In addition, the Bowie 30s pack in spatial audio thanks to an accelerometer that can track your head position, so as you're tilting around, the audio can also change more dynamically. This is a sensor that is technically missing on those other two headphones that we just mentioned. And all of this is wrapped in a pretty elegant design that looks far more premium than the price here would imply. All of the moving parts are reinforced with metal alloy, and the hinge is also extremely flexible, so as you are wearing it, it's going to be a bit more adjustable compared to conventional headphones, so very comfortable from an ergonomic point of view, and they can further fold down for easier transport as well. And as a refresher, this company is perhaps best known for making power banks and other charging peripherals. They're quite popular on Amazon, serving as a solid alternative to brands like Anker, so I've been actually quite impressed with many of their products in the past from a price to performance ratio point of view. Which is why when I was looking up these headphones online, I was kind of surprised with the rather pessimistic opinion that many folks had. Some folks said they're not buying headphones from a company that makes USB cables, with terms like 300% upgraded audio detail, bass enhanced up to 200%. But the funny thing is that's exactly the same as what Anker has done in their Soundcore line. Just like Baseus, I think people have forgotten that Anker were primarily well known for their power banks and charging peripherals on Amazon before they branched out into making audio products, which have become extremely popular. As another analogy, Xiaomi is perhaps best known for making smartphones, but these days they make many other types of smart home ecosystem products as well, from wearables to appliances. So I don't necessarily agree that we should be pigeonholed to only one specific category if they're willing to invest proper R&D and do it well. And although I agree with the sentiment that some of the marketing words might be better chosen, it's also technically not wrong either, because 300% upgraded detail means having LDAC support versus their predecessors not having it technically means you can transmit up to 3 times more resolution wirelessly compared to SBC or AAC. So 300% just means 3 times higher, and similarly bass enhanced by 200% is thanks to the larger drivers. Another way to think of it is having a bass boosted EQ mode that becomes 2 times more prominent when you have it flicked on versus off. So point being, just because in the past this company made rather solid performing power banks and other peripherals doesn't mean we should necessarily discriminate against them and say they can only make one type of product, rather than giving things a fair chance before jumping to conclusions. Again, not saying that these are perfect, because there is no product that is 100% positive, but also just pointing out something that I found to be rather curious. Anyways, coming back to the headphones themselves, they are compatible with an optional companion app that you can download for both iOS or Android, including some additional EQ profiles, and they also tout pretty long-lasting battery life of up to 65 hours in the normal Bluetooth mode. However, with active noise cancellation turned on, that number is a little closer to 50 hours in my testing, still quite good though. Baseus also claims fast charging on these, so just 10 minutes will provide up to 14 hours of additional listening time, and they can be used as both wired in addition to wireless headphones. More specifically, the active noise cancellation can block up to 45 decibels of sound, and the app also unlocks additional features like a low latency mode if you're gaming or watching videos. And inside we have the headphones. In addition to a quick user guide, there's also the classic Baseus sticker pack that you get with pretty much all of their other products as well. It's a nice extra touch, showing a bit more attention to detail than usual, and you'll also find a standard USB Type-C charging cable plus a 3.5mm cable as well. One accessory that's omitted from the packaging, however, would be a carrying pouch or a hardshell case that are included with many of the rivals, but it is what it is. Construction actually feels quite solid. Again, all the moving parts, including the headband if you want to extend on the length, are constructed out of metal alloy, perhaps taking some inspiration from Apple with the AirPod Max. That being said, the faceplate of the headphones are still crafted out of a polycarbonate plastic, similar to other headphones in this price range. What I do like, though, would be the subtle LED accent light on the very front. I think it's a nice design detail that can turn colors like red if it's low on power or being turned off, or white when it is paired with your device. Cushions for the headphones are also very generously padded, and they are square-shaped. These are fully over-ear style headphones as compared to more compact ones, and they were extremely comfortable in my testing. I think that's a combination of both the plush memory foam, in addition to, again, the hinge here being super flexible, resulting in these being actually one of the most comfy pair of ANC headphones I've tested in the sub $100 price range. In fact, I would dare say they're just a touch more comfortable compared to the Soundcores and One Mores that we talked about, because the hinges on these are a little bit more traditional and kind of fixed into place. So regardless of head size, if you're wearing glasses or not, they can be comfortably worn. Now located on the left-hand spine is going to be the ANC button that you can also press on to toggle to a transparency audio mode that will be using the microphones to amplify some of the sound around you so you can be aware of what's going on without even removing the headphones. And then located on the right-hand side are going to be all the other controls, including a power switch, as well as volume rocker that can also be pressed for about 1.5 seconds to skip track, and also a middle key that can play pause audio, as well as be long pressed for 3 seconds to turn on and off the spatial audio functionality. The bottom here houses a yellow accented Type-C port for charging, also a nice touch that's in line with this brand's kind of logo color, as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, perhaps one feature that is missing on this model, though, as you can tell here by the ports, would be any type of IP rating. So it's not going to be submergible in water, unlike a lot of smaller wireless buds. Casual use when it comes to light rain, as well as some sweat if you are wearing them in the gym, should be fine. But if you accidentally spill more water in it, or if it drops into something like a pool, it may not survive those deeper submersions. So just keep that in mind. But I think it's also reasonable for a larger pair of headphones like these. Taking a quick look at the software experience next, even from regular Bluetooth settings on your device, you can already toggle on and off LDAC as well as spatial audio. So you don't necessarily have to use their app, it is completely optional, primarily for more EQ controls if you're looking for that granularity. That being said, like other high-res audio headphones with LDAC, it's important to remember that Apple devices, including iPhones, unfortunately are not compatible with the LDAC codec at this point in time, just because this technology was initially developed with Sony support, and obviously they use Android. So if you are an Android smartphone user, you can take full advantage of that high-res audio certification, but if you are an iPhone user, it may not matter quite as much, just to be honest, instead relying on default Bluetooth 5.4 with SBC and AAC. Now jumping into the optional Baseus app, it is a pretty simple UI. The main tile here allows you to toggle on and off spatial audio profiles. The middle one, for instance, is called fixed, whereas the one here on the right is head tracking. I would say the head tracking mode is perhaps the most obvious, and it will take into account how you're sitting, using that as the center point. And if you try tilting your head over to the right, it's still going to sound like the audio is the strongest coming from that center direction. So as you are moving around, you'll hear the volume kind of change accordingly on the left and right sides. It's not a bad effect that is just simulated using the accelerometers and software, and when you turn it on, it's applied on any track that you're listening to, whether it's from YouTube, Spotify, any local tracks on your phone, so on and so forth. And this is not the first time that we've seen spatial audio implemented in this way, and it does add a playful touch that might be fun to experiment with if you're listening to certain live recordings. It makes it feel like you're even more present in the same space. However, if you're listening to more nuanced studio albums and you want it to be most faithful to how the artist intended, you're probably better off turning that profile off. In other words, it's fun to play with, but may not be suitable for every single track that you're listening to. But again, in certain live recordings, or if you're consuming a movie or doing some gaming, it can definitely add a bit more to the immersion. Now, the fixed mode is more like a EQ that tries to apply some sort of filter over the audio, almost simulating what a movie theater profile or mode might sound like. But again, the head tracking one is the most obvious. You can also play around with the transparency audio mode, or again, turn on the active noise cancellation. You can also find a commute, indoor, outdoor, as well as a custom profile that allows you to change the ANC depth. If you want it to be less intense, or if you want to be higher to reduce more of that ambient noise, but also perhaps apply slightly more pressure as you're wearing it. And to their credit, Baseus did a pretty good job with the ANC effectiveness overall. I would say it's as good, if not even a touch stronger, than what One More and also Soundcore have done on their current-gen headphones. Most of the lower frequency sounds from engines, fan noises do get repressed significantly once you have that mode turned on, without affecting the EQ and sound signature that much. Now further down below, there's going to be a low latency mode that you can turn on, good for gaming as well as video. However, this is kind of the antithesis or opposite of LDAC, because if you think about it, LDAC is purposefully sending more information using Bluetooth to get you, again, a higher quality, high-res audio experience. With low latency, they have to reduce or compress some of the details in order for it to be sent more quickly, more responsively, and so if you're just listening to music or podcasts, I would suggest turning this mode off. Last but not least, there's also EQ controls, so from here you can use either the Baseus Classic or emphasize vocals and trebles even more. There's also pop, rock EQ, as well as a custom one, which allows you to kind of name and also change the frequency sliders yourself. However, these are lacking a personalized hearing test EQ mode, which Soundcore offers on some of their flagship headphones, where it plays back a series of sounds and then you can answer yes or no if you prefer sound 1 or 2, creating your EQ for you automatically. On here, it's a bit more manual, and also the list of options for EQ is a bit more limited as well, perhaps an area they can further expand on in the future. That said, I think the Classic already sounds good enough for the majority of times, especially with bass boosted turned on. And I point this out because when I first wore these headphones, I was actually quite surprised, because the soundstage is quite open. It took me a few moments to realize I was even wearing them. It honestly sounded like they were coming out from the room that I was in, instead of originating from smaller speakers or drivers over my head. I guess that's one benefit of having these larger 50mm drivers inside. Particularly when it comes to instrumentals, trebles, when it comes to vocals, sounded very clear, really easy to distinguish apart with plenty of nuances. However, it also meant that if you are a bass head, the lower frequency sounds were not quite as strong or impactful on the default mode until I flicked on that bass boosted toggle, and then it became a lot more dynamic sounding, a bit more similar to what the Soundcore Space 1s are like. But again, if you have that mode turned off, I would say they are surprisingly more neutral sounding, a bit heavier towards mids and trebles. So again, I would definitely suggest turning on that bass boost mode, just because on these, I do think it actually helps the sound become a bit more well-rounded. And even with it turned on, I wouldn't say it's overpowering. It's not going to be drowning out the mids or trebles either. From a connectivity point of view, I also felt that they were pretty reliable thanks to the latest Bluetooth 5.4 chip. I was able to walk around the room, further in fact than even 10 meters from the phone, and didn't have any disconnections or drops. And maybe only one slight downside on these would be the active noise cancellation can only be triggered when you have the headphones turned on. That might seem like a minor quirk to some, but I just point it out because let's say you're trying to sleep on a flight without necessarily listening to music. You just want to use them for blocking out sound. Well, now the Bluetooth is also on, and so they are draining a little bit more power. So if they made ANC and Bluetooth independent functions, maybe this also being a toggle or switch, I think that could be even more versatile. But honestly, that's kind of nitpicking, because aside from that, gotta say that these definitely received my recommendation for being one of the better value active noise cancelling Bluetooth headphones, again priced at under $100. They are extremely comfortable, feeling quite good from a build point of view. Audio is clean without any traces of static, hissing, or distortion. Volume output was excellent, so you'll have no problems hearing the audio with a wider and more spacious soundstage than I was expecting. And the Bowie 30 Max also have two microphones for answering calls, with some ENC or environmental noise cancellation when you are answering them. However, for calls, I would say the quality is just merely average. It's not really the main highlight of these headphones per se. Now, there are models out there more suited for communication that have perhaps an extendable boom mic, or even certain wireless buds with a stem that resemble the AirPod getting closer to your mouth. So as you're talking, voice pickup will be easier for the microphones as well. On here, it's a little bit further away, so it's fine for casual conversations, primarily if you're indoors, but just average in this regard. In fact, not that different from the Soundcores and One Mores that we compared against at the beginning. And again, basses are using a little bit more metal alloy in the build. That said, I guess one function that Soundcore has, which is missing from the other two, would be a ambient light sensor on the inside that can detect if you're wearing the headphones or not. So if you remove them from your head, the music will automatically play and pause. A small detail, but just something to flag. So although there are a couple of minor quirks, overall I am still quite impressed by the value that you're getting here when it comes to comfort, larger drivers, and in my opinion, a slightly more stylish design as well. You can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. These have been the Baseus Bowie 30 Max active noise cancelling wireless Bluetooth headphones.